Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about tips and tricks on improvement. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Hi Frederick, hope that you are well and thank you very much for the great content. I wanted to ask you for some advice. I am a software developer without a computer science degree, and although I can talk about some of the fundamentals of computer science topics like networking, operating systems, data structures and algorithms, and design systems, I think continuing to improve my computer science knowledge is something very important. Do you have any tips regarding this, and how do you continue to grow your knowledge in these areas yourself and balance doing so with your work? Thank you. Well, that's an easy one. So the best tips I can give you is to do the thing that well, I'm not going to say that it's the best tip. It's the best tip I can give you at the very least. There are probably better tips out there. But what I usually do is that I orient my learning in terms of goals. So the way I like to describe it is a bit like when I first started, for example, doing software development and like I first became a programmer, and it's similar for I've done the same thing for basically everything I've ever learned for most of the time, at least when I'm doing my own learning since I was a kid. So it usually starts out with a need of something, of some sort. Like I find something to be cool, or I want to see if I can do it. I want to like, for example, I want to build my own website as an example. Okay, then my first question would be, okay, so how do I do that? Well, if I don't know anything about how to do a thing, I do a little bit of research. I'd look around a little bit. Okay, so you basically go to Google or a search engine and say, hey, how to build websites. And then you're going to get a bunch of different things and tons of information, right? And then the first thing I do is that I do a little bit of checking. Okay, so what are most people saying that, yeah, you can do this, you can do that, you can do all these various things. And then I simply pick something. It doesn't matter what it is, because as I like to say to people, if you don't know where, actually that's not my quote, it's, what is it? It's from Alice in Wonderland, right? If you don't know where you're going, then it doesn't matter which way you pick. And that is exactly how I think about it. It really doesn't matter. Like, I don't know anything, so I might as well start. And then I try with the approach that I picked to, for example, build this website. And then I see if I can get it to be as close to the thing that I want it to be. And then when I crash and burn, which I absolutely will because I haven't done this before, well, then hopefully by the time I've done that, I've figured out a few things, and then I do the same thing again. Now I build a different type of website. And then when I've done that, learned some stuff, I repeat. And then I repeat, and then I repeat. Like if I'll give you an example from like right now actually before I started doing this video. So right now I'm playing around a little bit with Blender, this 3D modeling program, because I wanted to try out 3D graphics and art and things like that. And literally the thing I did after I took, like I have a playlist for myself with a bunch of different tutorials for just learning different techniques, right? In some cases I find them very interesting, so I try to replicate the effect that these very talented artists have done. Like my stuff will, it's not of course at their level, but that's not the point. The point is to try to mimic a little bit, and then I sit and I just, once I feel like I understand a tool in the system or like an approach or something like that, I literally just sit and just make things like over and over and over. I don't know how many files I have now with like just garbage stuff that it takes 10 between 10 minutes 30 minutes. That's roughly how much energy I have to put on any one thing, because like I don't have the, as I like to say, like doing these really big projects. If you are the sort of person who wants to do that, go for it. But at least for me, having many different projects where I get to train different techniques and try to do different effects and see how it goes is more efficient for me at the very least. And so that's why I just create endless thing. And you will see the exact same thing uh, on my, say, GitHub if you want to look at my coding projects and things like that. Like, as I like to say, like I think I have a few hundred repos, or maybe at least 100, something like that. I don't check all that often. And most of it is complete garbage, because it's just something that I did because I wanted to figure out how to do a thing, or I had a cool experiment I wanted to try out. And that's the thing. experiment, be goal oriented, try to figure out what you want. So in your situation here, so you want to be a like you want to be better at computer science, for example. Okay, so how would you check? Because it's apparently a very generic thing, right? So how would you do that? Well, my biggest tip for you would be to, okay, let's see if you can either sign up for some courses in computer science and see if you can take a few courses just to get, as I said, based on my principle now, so you get some initial information so you sort of know, and then create a goal for yourself. And the easiest goal I can imagine is, hey, you're gonna complete a certain course, or you're going to complete a certain amount of LeetCode or CAD, is like these different types of platforms where they have algorithmic challenges. You're gonna make you're gonna complete one or two of those things, and then you're most likely, unless you're very gifted, going to crash and burn. And then you're going to do some research, figure out what didn't go so well and like why it didn't go so well, and then you start doing a few more, and then a few more, and a few more, and exactly the same thing that well, hopefully the thing's gonna happen for you that happens for me when I've done the same thing. At some point you're going to start feeling less fulfilled by trying it out, because doing this thing over and over, because you're going to start learning things, and now it's really about finding another area or something that is sort of new to you, so you try a different technique. For me with like 3D modeling, maybe I learned one or two ways of doing something, and I've done it so many times now that I kind of feel like, yeah, maybe I'm not a master, but it's not really like new and scary to do this because I've done it so many times. And literally the same thing I've been doing for years as a software developer. It's the entire process, guys. I promise you, it is nothing more than that. It really comes down to setting a goal for a thing you want to be able to do, and then figuring out how to do it, and then trying and trying and trying until you get close enough that you feel like, yeah, I understand how to get to this goal. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you want to get better at computer science, or if you want my tips for this, as I said, I have exactly one trick, and that is to be goal oriented. It's the only thing that I've ever used that has ever worked for me, because I really don't believe that you can get really good at something by just, like if it's all theory, you never experiment, you never try to do things, it's very difficult for you to make something concrete. And that's why even in my own work, when I work at software companies and things like that, when people are trying to define stories, for example, I say the same thing. You know that the people in the room know what they want to do once they can write down, when they can make something concrete. Because if everything is super fluffy, super vague and hypothetical, it's very difficult for people to align on what are we supposed to do. So if we're gonna invent this new big thing, well, yeah, that's really a great idea, right? But it's really difficult to figure out how do you get there without being a little bit concrete about things. And that's why I say these sort of exercises are a very good way, because what happens basically is that if you set the goal of, let's say that you're gonna complete a bunch of LeetCode exercises, by just having a goal somewhere where you want to move, you're going to learn the things that you want to learn, because it's a bit like a trip or an adventure or something like that. You will grow as an individual just trying to reach the goal, and it doesn't really matter if you get there or not, because your learning and like your understanding of the concepts necessary to get to that goal will increase by trying. And then if you do reach the goal and you feel pretty happy with the knowledge that you have acquired, you simply move the post, like the next flag, you put that somewhere else, and then you start working in that direction. And before you know it, you do the same thing again with and you just keep on doing that. That's exactly how it went. I've done it, and it's the same thing I do now with new things that I'm learning. The trick isn't to figure this part out. I argue this technique will probably make sense to a lot of people. The trick is to stick by it, because most people give up. And you're never going to learn anything if you just put a goal somewhere over there and you never move towards it. Have a great day.